This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 154. You're solving people, not selling houses. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan or any plan to help you get there? Then hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction or a better direction if you've been in the business for a while, I've created a free strategic plan for you that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com. That's freeagentgift.com. Get over there, get a look, get started. Okay, so in this episode, you're solving people, not selling houses. I know. Probably be a controversial subject here with that title, but that's true. I mean, really, when I think about my career, which has been long, over 21 years at the recording of this podcast, I think about, did I really sell a house? I mean, did I really sit there and tell somebody, this is why you're going to buy this house? Or did I really guide them through the emotional process of finding home? Now, of course, there have been investors that I've dealt with, but that's not typically my avatar or my ideal client. I like this business a lot because I get to help real people find home or sell home. And there's a lot going on in there. So I'm always finding myself more so helping them solve themselves rather than sell the house. I say this to people all the time. Don't worry about finding a house. Don't worry about me finding the buyer. I've been doing it for a long time, and as long as we're all on the same page, I will not fail you. So, but I know that the times that things have failed early on in my career, I think I made a lot of tactical mistakes. I didn't know how to price it right as well as I do today, and you get used to all of those pieces of it. But really, anytime where something doesn't get done, it's because there's not a real motivation to sell. And so we have to be able to solve the people much more so than we have to actually sell a house. Yes, there are tactical issues, so it's a little bit to catch your attention here. But the waiting towards solving the people, including yourself as I go through this podcast, is far more important to learn how to do that than the tactical stuff. Tactical stuff I can teach you in my sleep, right? The more I've done it, the simpler I see the business, the cleaner my systems have become. I'm able to teach brand new agents to be successful at my brokerage, The Griffin, very quickly now because we're just able to tell them exactly what to do. But the people part, that's difficult, and that takes time because it's really self-development. That's what this is. To be a great realtor, you have to self-develop. So here's the first problem, okay? This is the first point here, or the problem. Selling or buying residential real estate is one of the largest emotional transactions most people will make. Now, throw in that it's a huge financial transaction. Of course, at the luxury level, there are people that have been in business transaction much bigger than, say, selling or buying a house. I understand that. But for most people, even when they are successful, this is very emotional. Especially if somebody's been in a house, for example, for a long time and they've raised their children there, or somebody has passed there and they're downsizing, they're upsizing. Memories, the sense of home. This is their cave. This is where they felt safe. This is where they did what they did, or not so much. Maybe they can't wait to get out of there because it's bad memories. In any of those cases, it's a massive emotional transaction. Okay, that's the key to remember. Every single time, the other person that you're serving is most likely going to run an emotional train, okay? And it's going to all come out, or some people are good at hiding it, but just presume that all of them are going to feel some emotions about this, especially in single family or condo living where it is their home. That's where they live. That's really where this is heightened the most. So the next point is here. With all those heightened emotions, fear and even paranoia are unleashed on you as the agent. I mean, because you're the only one there. You're the backdrop for all of this. You're the one that they're going to come to. So look, if you're new or newer in this business, like, wear a helmet, put the chin strap on tight, because if you don't understand that from day one, you are going to be shocked at the types of things that people say to you, or they insinuate, or they text you these days and hide behind that. I mean, I see that all the time. And what they go through. I mean, these days, everybody is quick to take a pill or have a drink or do whatever else they're going to do to try to calm themselves down. And they find themselves in the middle of the transaction with you in these other drugged up or drunken states. And I'm just being very clear with you. I have been through all of it. I have seen and witnessed all of it. I'm telling you, this is the real deal in real estate. Don't think it's all this Pollyanna-ish, perfect utopian transactional stuff. It's not. If you're a veteran, you get all this, right? So, but I'm going to get to you veterans in a second because I coach top producers in the mastermind. And I'm telling you, even when they're managing their businesses or they're in transactions, I don't care how long they've been in the business, they get drawn in by somebody else's fear, paranoia, and especially when those types of emotions are unleashed on them, it triggers them. That's what happens. Everybody gets drawn in. Okay. So how do you deal with this? So my best piece of advice here is to always keep your client focused on the importance of why. I'm going to underline this and highlight it, why they are doing this in the first place. Over the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, especially in the telemarketing effort that we make at my sales machine team, meaning my immediate book of business and what we teach the Griffin agents, I cannot emphasize to all of them enough that they must figure out with the person that's buying or selling, why are they going to go through this process in the first place? See, as veterans of all of this, we know that this is a massive emotional transaction. So really, it's not a takeaway. It's not some slick way of getting somebody to recognize, that, you're trying to draw them in with a takeaway sales methodology. I don't like that stuff. It's phony. But it is legitimate to say to somebody, are you sure you want to go through this process? Because it can make you emotional. It can cause a lot of pain and suffering while we go through it. Are you sure? Do you have a real why? And for all of you that are trying to prospect and build a solid book of business where you're serving people until they're ready, we also clarify on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? You might have a why that sounds reasonable, but have you ever really asked, are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine. Are you ready? On a scale of 1 to 10, are you ready to run this race? I'm a 6. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Turn the car off. You're not ready. In our experience, we tell people that if you're not at a 9 to 10, I'll take the 9 and I'll figure that out. But if we're still at a 6, what's wrong? Before we even enter into the transaction, what's wrong? Why so low? And is it something that I can help solve? Or is it just a physical time limitation that you really legitimately cannot make this move? See, all of this is helping that client focus themselves on really where they're at. Where are you meeting them in that transactional process? See, when I first got into the business, I heard all the ridiculous quips and these little anecdotal type of phrases that are used about buyers and sellers. And the worst one is buyers are liars. And then also people will start to say, well, sellers are liars too. They told me they wanted to sell it and they didn't. Well, wait a minute. If that keeps coming up and all of a sudden buyers and sellers don't seem to be quote unquote telling us the truth, then why don't we ask better questions? Why don't we figure out why that happens? And we did. And we spent a lot of time on it. And the good news for all of you, you can learn it right here, right now. Ask them why they are doing this. Shut up, let them talk, and listen. I know that's funny hearing from a guy that runs a monologue every week on a podcast, but you don't see me when I do what I do. I ask a lot of provocative questions and I listen because not everybody's situation is even remotely close to the same. So when I hear somebody express why they do it, I'm watching the emotions. I'm listening for the realistic time frame. And then by asking, well, gee, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? I'm helping them clarify even further. A why can be a big story. Some people can go off on a tangent and tell me a big story, and I bring them back with the clarifying question so that I can keep bringing them back into this place of clarity. And that's what a good guide in the real estate agent business does. You keep guiding them through their process. Now, if you have a good systematic approach, and I work hard on mine every single day, every single week to continuously clarify the process, that's what I do. And the benefit to me is that it allows that seller or that buyer to have more clarity quicker, which does what? It lessens the lengthening of this emotional state. And actually, quite some time, I can see clients' shoulders come down. I've actually heard real exhales because you see, where we find people before they're ready to sell or buy when we first meet them, they've been sitting in the quiet of their own mind thinking about this. And then it gets not so quiet because I really want to move and I really want to downsize. I just don't know how to get there. That starts to really go off in their head even before you arrive. So instead of letting them get caught up in all of the what could go wrongs, because they don't know what they don't know, they're not professionals. I can't believe how many of you think everybody knows how to sell their house. And also the for sale by owners, which are about 9% of the total sales that happen. Most of those people knew somebody and they think they did so great. I saved all the commission. Yeah, you got 200,000 less than you could have got in the market. I see that stuff all the time. So I'm making that point because nobody really knows what it's like to go through a real estate transaction from the business side unless they've been in the business and unless they've gone through it enough times where they start to see these themes. So that's, of course, going to make people emotional. And that's all of you out there that might be listening to this that are sellers or buyers that think, I've sold 6 houses. Great. I've sold 6 houses in a week. Okay. Stop. Stop. I know, you know it all. Until you get in on the real estate agent side and you run it as a business, you don't know the half of what you don't know. Because I don't know what I don't know as a pro going into every deal until I'm confronted with it. I just have the tools I can work with. So keep everybody focused on why they're doing it in the first place. Now, the pro tip here, next point, when you're involved with your client's negative emotions, of course, yours are going to be triggered too. Of course. I mean, think about it. We have people on our team that come from a variety of backgrounds. Many of them have family situations. Many of them have children like me. Well, when you're dealing with family situations every day and the raising of children and the running of businesses and trying to keep yourself in some semblance of order and shape and mental stability yourself, and all of a sudden you get involved with somebody and they get emotional and they say something nasty to you simply because their emotions have been unleashed. Now what? What do? Are you that strong emotionally where you can just brush it off? Probably not, because you're human. And it's insulting and it hurts. And now you've been giving somebody so much time. Imagine working with somebody 6 months to get them prepared. And all of a sudden you get there and you're sitting at the table and you're talking about how this is all going to go down and they're nasty to you and you're taken aback. Well, I never. What? Right? That's what happens. That's normal. It happens. But it's what you do in that moment in time with those emotions. You really have to work hard. This is the final point here in this podcast. You really have to work hard to realize that you're capable of bringing logic and calm back to the deal. Okay? You are. And especially if you will just listen to me, please listen to me and build a systematic approach to every single transaction so that when all these emotions come down on you, you don't collapse against a non-safety net situation. Meaning, when somebody weighs in on me during negotiation, I just take a breath. Of course, I'm frustrated. Back and forth to the house, showing the property, doing the math, working with people. And then the offer comes in. That's BS, that offer. Screw them. I'm not even going to, right? All that comes down on you after the hard work and you just kind of begin to collapse. But you say, okay, hold on. I get it. I understand. But let's just go back, okay? Remember, we're trying to move here because you want to downsize. Always go back to the why. Always the cornerstone. Remember, we're just trying to get from here to there, and I know that you want your number. I understand that. We've come a long way. We're in the middle of communication and now negotiation stage, and it's simply what they felt through their emotional state is where they should start. I don't know that it's them. I don't know that it's their agent, but here's what we're going to do because I have a plan. Just like I told you from the beginning. We're going to go back and we're going to thank them for doing something in writing. We're going to knock off a small token amount off of your asking price and give them that counter. Yes, please don't put a wet blanket on me and have this emotional moment where you don't give me something to work with. I don't care if it's $1,000, $500. Give me something to go back to the realtor with and say, my seller appreciates that all of this is in writing. Unfortunately, it's not enough money for them to move on. But as a token of their appreciation, they would like to counter you and knock $1,000 off and ask that I share the math that I used to price it so that you can see what we have. And if you and your client have some math and some statistics and some comparables that you think make the case for the number you're at, please give them to us and we'll share them with the seller. That's a pretty dang tough, logical, calm moment to rail against. Now, the other person on the other side might not be a real buyer if you have the seller in that case. Your buyer might be having to have this process and you keep telling them, I'm telling you, this is going to be difficult, but I'm going to do it for you, okay? And I don't know what kind of reaction we're going to get, but don't get insulted because we have some math here that we did for you as the buyer. See, I always like to go back to math, statistics, fact, because that brings logic back into it. And then if somebody like a buyer keeps lowballing, they can't help themselves. It's just the way they grew up and it's their money paradigm, where it is. They say, well, fine. I keep showing you it's selling. I keep showing you in a hot market, most things that are priced right. And you know, this one was because they had 3 showings today. You know that this was priced in the right range. So the math's not that far off. You know that on average, these asked to sold to ask ratios, they're going for about 97, 98% of the asking price. Okay. So you know that. But you want to put in this offer at 90%, and you know from the evidence that we're probably closer than that. Just want you to know the logic of the moment. So I'll put you through this process, but I'm going to tell you that it's not the advice that the evidence gives us. So let's go. See what I mean? That's what I've learned over time. Now, again, inside, tomorrow morning, doing a negotiation, I might be emotional. I just left a high-end property that I swore we were going to get an offer on, and we lost out to another property. I'm a little bit dejected after that energy and everything that was there. And, you know, I was able to tell the whole lifestyle of the area. It just wasn't right for them. So I stayed calm, called my seller, said, unfortunately, we lost to something else. I think I know what it is. Let's look it up. Laura will send it to you from the office. And we did. And we showed him because it brings logic into the situation. Now you know what you lost to. And that's what he wants to know. And that's what everybody wants to know to bring their emotions down, that we, the guides, are giving them the best chance to win. That's the key point here. So let me go back and summarize this because it's a tricky, involved subject. But if you can remember the subject, you're solving people, not selling houses. It just reweights everything for you for what you should be working on. That's what this podcast is about, to help you work on you and building your business. And it starts with becoming this psychologist, this real estate psychologist, recognizing you will have to deal with the emotions of people just like a psychologist because they're going to come out all over you and you're going to have to deal with them. So the first point was to recognize that the problem is when people go to sell or buy real estate, it's one of the largest emotional transactions that they'll make. So the second point is with heightened emotions, fear and paranoia are unleashed and typically on you and I as the agent. Third, always keep your client focused on the importance of why they're doing it. Right? Why are they buying or selling in the first place? And that'll help you begin to control their emotions. Next, the pro tips start with, when you're involved with clients' negative emotions, you have to recognize from a self-developmental point that yours are being triggered too. So be aware of how you're reacting. I think that's what I teach. Well, I don't think. That's what I teach my agents at the Griffin. Be aware of how you're reacting. Take a moment. Call your mentor in the company, which oftentimes is me. And I will talk you through your emotions, and then I'll put you back on the path of the plan. Lastly, you must work hard to realize that you are capable of bringing logic and calm back to the deal as long as you have been evolving your own emotional quotient and you stick to the plan. Let me summarize it this way, okay? Let's say it this way. Because selling or buying residential real estate triggers the emotions of your client, you'll need to be aware that those emotions will be negative and they'll set themselves upon you. So the key here is to keep that client focused. I can't say it enough on why they are moving, because the more they can see the future, the more they can pull through the current emotions that have them stuck. All right. Now remember, you can get started right now in a better direction if you go get a copy of our free plan that's waiting for you at freeagentgift.com, okay? Freeagentgift.com. You can get over there and you can get a strategic plan that is the safety net for your own emotions. I promise you, if you will trust me on this one, the more systematic you know how you're handling a seller or a buyer systematically in business, and the more systematically you approach your business, that's where you can evolve emotionally. But if your emotions are being swung all over the place and you don't have a backdrop to fall against, you don't have your own safety net of a plan, you're going to be stuck, and it's going to be a much more difficult business than it needs to be. All right, remember, you can go subscribe to this podcast on anywhere, really, it's almost anywhere where we have it, right? So we have it on iTunes, Spotify. We post everything on the social media channels. We're always there. So you can find any of these episodes. And I'm just asking you, use these episodes to provoke some thought and write things down. Become a more planned agent. But remember this. This is what I always say when I leave this podcast. Nobody's coming for you. Not your broker, not your brokerage, not some guru, not me. Nobody's coming for you to help you build a better business. So you have to get to work on it right now by yourself. And of course, I will be here in the next episode to provoke you and help you to do just that. Thanks again for listening.